We welcome you again this afternoon to another session over some developments after our briefing to you yesterday. You must have read all the statements poured out yesterday by various people, not least that of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, where he was literally calling for the cancellation of the last Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections. Obasanjo's call was anchored on the unsubstantiated claims, rumors, and allegations of fraud by opposition parties led by the PDP and Labour Party, who, having seen that they have lost the election, would rather want our hard-won democracy to be truncated on the altar of their lies. You must also be aware of the gang-up by the PDP and the Labour Party, whose agents walked out of the National Coalition Center in Abuja on Monday. Today, they continued their conspiracy to truncate our 24-year democratic journey by raising unfounded allegations against INEC, casting aspersions on the whole electoral process, forgetting the process had handed them unexpected victories in some states. We have always suspected that Labour Party and the PDP are the same. They are only divided by individual inordinate ambition. We want to remind them that election is a process, like pregnancy. And like a pregnancy that has reached full term, it cannot be aborted. We are not in 1993 when June 12 was aborted by similar forces. It is too late to do so now. This is 2023, and the entire world is watching our democratic process. The process must be completed. That is the nuance, the principle, and the convention of democracy. Election is a democratic process. It must be completed. Whoever is aggrieved has constitutional institutions to seek succor, justice, equity, or whatever. The APC, PCC wants to say emphatically that former President Obasanjo has no moral right to meddle in this election, let alone calling for its cancellation, because he's an interested party, having publicly on January 1 this year endorsed the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Obi. Although we stand by our position as stated yesterday, not to jump the protocol governing the announcement of the election results and allow Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to perform its constitutional duty, we want to tell the gathering anti-democratic forces that we have the strength, the determination, and the will to protect and defend this process, and the soon-to-be formally announced mandate freely given to our party and our presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his running mate, Senator Kashim Shettima. We are ready to defend the soon-to-be formally announced mandate freely given to them. We are very well aware of the plan of the PDP and their Labour Party collaborators to heighten tension in the country and create general state of fear through their sponsored television and radio surrogates who continue to push false narratives about the general conduct of the election. We are also aware of the coordinated assaults aimed at discrediting the whole electoral process and the integrity of INEC by their so-called paid and partisan agents who wear the toga of election observers. We consider Obasanjo and his fellow travelers their failed attempt to scuttle the process through his unsolicited advice to President Muhammadu Buhari to cancel the election as part of the grand orchestration of many evil plots to truncate democracy in Nigeria. Part of the evil plot that has been making the rounds in the last several weeks is the pernicious agenda of wanting to impose and foist an interim government on Nigeria. This is not 1993. Nigerians, in unison, want this democratic process completed, and so it shall be. The integrity of the electoral process has been attested to by the international observers, such as the Commonwealth, the ECOWAS, the African Union observer missions, who adjudged the election as peaceful, free, and fair, whilst they identified areas of logistical improvements INEC should take into consideration in future elections. And, gentlemen of the press, I have a video here that I'm going to play to you where General Obasanjo himself, at an interview in the United States, did say emphatically, and you will listen and watch, that there is no perfect elections anywhere in the world. When he was queried on the credibility of the election of 2007 that he himself conducted, and he did say that there is no perfect election anywhere in the world. That you move and improve on logistics and hitches that are identified. And you move on and you correct anomalies as you move on and you improve with every stage of it. Now, Nigeria and any other nation in the world is an ongoing concern. And so there are political hitches, there are economic hitches, there are infrastructural hitches, there are democratic hitches, there are procedural hitches. That does not mean that the nation will be aborted. And so this democratic process cannot be aborted. Now, as you are aware, the election was replete with drama. We saw the APC presidential candidate, party chairman, and PCC director general losing their home states to the Labour Party. Our DG lost his bid to the Senate. They didn't call for fire and brimstone. They did not say the country should halt and not move because they have lost their home bases. These are true Democrats. And we call on anybody in this country who claims to be a Democrat to imbibe the tenets, the nuance, the dynamics, and principles of democracy, and to be a honorable loser. There can be honor in defeat. We have also seen how Governor Samuel Ortom, a Labour Party backer, lost his state of Benue to the APC. He also lost his bid to the Senate to the APC candidate. He hasn't called for the abortion of the process or for the Nigerian state to halt. The Benue APC tsunami was triggered by our popular governorship candidate, Father Hyacinth Alia, and the party leader, George Akume. In Taraba, we have also witnessed how Governor Darius Ishaku lost his senatorial election. With all these hills and valleys and dramas that characterize the election, how can anyone in good conscience claim that the election was rigged or not transparent? Oh, does it mean that where PDP and Labour Party won, the election was free and fair there? But where they lost, the election was rigged there. What kind of logic, warped logic is that? What kind of reasoning? What kind of jaundiced perspective is that? I know egocentrism and extreme selfishness. Where the election or the results favor you, it's okay. Where you lose, it's rigged. That does not hold water in informed circles and in decent societies. We need to enjoin politicians to imbibe the democratic spirit. Elections are meant to test a candidate's acceptance or popularity. In a national election, you must seek acceptance nationally. Ethnic champions cannot go far, as democracy is a game of numbers. Wherever a candidate has a critical numbers, he wins. Wherever he's deficient, he loses. We have seen all these scenarios at play in the last weekend's election. We call on INEC to speed up the announcement of the results to quickly diffuse the current atmosphere of anxiety in the country so that the Nigerians can move on from this election cycle with a greater hope of prosperity, which our candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, promised them during the electioneering campaign. We are very happy to note that the stock market recorded a gain of over 260 billion naira on Monday, following news that Asiwaju Tinubu will emerge as the president-elect. That is a sign. That is a clear sign of the monumental gains in all spheres: financial, political, economic, social, infrastructural gains that Nigeria stands to make with an Asiwaju presidency. In the meantime, we call on Nigerians and our supporters across the country to be peaceful, exercise more patience, and not be provoked by the antics of the agents of darkness lurking around. Finally, we call on Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi to emulate former President Jonathan, Goodluck Jonathan, by conceding defeat honorably. This election has already been won by our candidate, according to the results declared at the collation centers in the state. In 2015, President Jonathan did not wait for INEC to finish collation before he called President Buhari and congratulated him in the true spirit of democracy and sportsmanship. We urge Atiku Abubakar and Obi to follow the same path of honor instead of attempting to heat up the polity via the reckless statements by surrogates. Let Atiku and Obi do the needful, do the decent thing, and save Nigeria any agony by calling Tinubu now and conceding defeat. Thank you, gentlemen. Now I want to play you the tape. If your cameras can zoom in on this in my hand, so you see the visual clearly and the video of it. I'm increasing the volume. Here goes.
Back in 2007, it is said that you actually said that that election would be a do or die election.
No. I said for my party.
For your party.
For my party.
Yeah, but they can see.
The PDP.
We want to win the election, not by who or by who.
But of course, you know that the complaints about that election.
Yeah. Now,
far from being fair.
No, that election was fair.
You think so?
Oh yes. Look, there is no election we have had in Nigeria that has not been disputed. The election was disputed, all right, but the election reflected the will of the people of Nigeria. And my party had 28 governors.
If you had to do it again.
You think that 28 out of 36 governors, where you have one of the contestants had probably 5 governors, one hadn't got any governor at all, and these governors will campaign and work for their own party, and you think that my party will lose?
You know, it has been actually said that it is true that Nigeria, at least on paper, is a multi-party system.
Yes.
But in reality, it is a one-party state. PDP controls almost everything.
Well, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? If the people of Nigeria decide to vote for PDP, should PDP go to them and say, please,
in
do
a
vote
free
for us?
and fair election?
Yes.
That is also verified by the international observers.
Yes.
But not the last election, 2007.
No, don't talk about these international observers. In the last 18 months, I have observed the election in South Africa and in Togo.
Yes.
And if you have gone by what the so-called international observers are saying, both elections will have been declared not acceptable. And this morning I have only commented on the election in Sudan.
Well,
now,
one minute to go, sir. 1 minute to go, sir.
Now,
what is the single most?
Shaka,
yes.
What is important is that any election should reflect the will of the people. In this country, in America, it didn't have a
in 2000 in Florida, it didn't happen.
There's no time they have had a perfect election.
No perfect election.
The British told me that, in fact, in their own election, they got dead people voting.
It's okay. Gentlemen, you've heard and seen it all. If you like, I can forward all these things to you to make it clearer for you. That is General Obasanjo telling us no election is perfect anywhere in the world.
They have called for Mahmoud, the chairman of INEC, to step aside and that they have no faith in him again to conduct any election, and any other person within the commission should take over. And they called for an intervention of President Muhammadu Buhari in the process. They're actually calling for the president to intervene, to interfere with the process, and do their bidding. So just quickly, because of time, we want to respond to those demands. First of all, those demands are not possible under the law. The national chairman of INEC, seated at the National Collation Center, is the national returning officer for that purpose. And if you look at the provisions of the Electoral Act, at every point of the collation process, the officer who makes that return at the unit level, the ward level, it is final for that purpose. I repeat, any officer at every level of the collation process, look at Section 45 of the Electoral Act down to about 70 or so, which itemizes how those results are collated. So once a unit officer makes a return, for instance, under the old Electoral Act, when there's a complaint at a unit level, the unit officer, can take all his complaint to the ward level and then make his complaint. And then at a higher level, they will review what has happened and make a decision at the higher level, at the ward level or the local government level. But under the new Electoral Act, and I think my elder brother at the bar, Chief Olanikbeku, made that point 1 month before the election, that it is a dangerous provision of the law. That now the returning officer is final for that purpose. So just quickly, the unit officers who made the return and appended their signature on forms E8 is to the ward officers, that's final, local government officers final, state returning officers final, the RECs. And then when it comes to the National Collation Center, the national chairman has national returning officer, which national chairman, has no powers under the law to review what all those returning officers have done. All your complaints should have been resolved at that level. If the national chairman at the National Collation Center now attempts to say, now I want to review what happened in this ward or local government, he's constituting himself into a tribunal. Once a return has been made, it is only an election tribunal that can interfere with that return. And lastly, for the second one, is that the process, as it is now, must be completed in law before you can even look at any complaints. You cannot complain about a process, about election results that have not been released, have not been announced. So they want the national chairman to inquire into results that he has not received and declared. And that is not the provisions, that is completely at variance with the Electoral Act. So it's just to tell Nigerians, because of time, we are live on air, to tell Nigerians that these requests are not possible under the law.
There are clear remedies for people that believe the election has not been conducted in the right way. And the remedy is to go to court after the announcement. What these people are trying to do is to abort the democratic process. What they're doing is close to being treasonous. And what they're doing is totally unacceptable by any standard at all. As far as I'm concerned, this was contrived. They knew they were going to lose. We spoke a few weeks back about the whole idea and conspiracy to come up with some kind of ING, which is really what they want, knowing they cannot defeat our party and our candidate. And we're seeing this, unfolding before our very eyes. So Nigerians need to understand it for what it is. When they gather together, like three blind mice, like they did today earlier, talking about aborting the process, aborting a democratic process, removing an INEC chairman because you're not winning, and then President Obasanjo, and it hurts me to have to say this, will come and add his voice to the whole idea of aborting a democratic process. These are not Democrats. These are tyrants. These are people that cannot accept the whole idea of losing an election. They're not man enough. They're not strong enough. If there's a problem, go to court afterwards. That's how civilized people behave. You don't gather yourself together and say, because my candidate is losing, because my party is losing, because we are losing everywhere, or we've lost, that we've seen our aspirations melting like an iceberg approaching the tropics, that will scatter everything and set Nigeria back. This election will be defended once the announcement has been made that our candidate has won. This is something that we said yesterday, we're saying it again now. They should not try to abort the process, otherwise there will be consequences in this country, because we will not allow another June 12th. By God's grace, this democracy will stand.
Dino Melaye
Good.
and others should understand that it is not all the time that you display your Agberoism, motopark mentality. This is Nigeria, over 200 million people. And this election has been waited for all these years. Preparations were made. Billions of naira were spent.
Absolutely.
If candidates of APC, PDP and others are losing in their strongholds, Lagos, Katsina, Kebbi, and other places, how much do you want to see of a credible election where even governors, sitting governors, are losing elections to go to Senate? If PDP were to be leading and to be winning, will they stage the walkout?
Exactly.
If they were to be leading and winning, will they pull out of this whole process? Would they be doing press conference? If Labour were to be winning, would they also pull out? I also want to advise Peter Obi not to hide under the cover of PDP. Yes. They will stand him.
Yes.
He still have a better future. Yeah. He will stand him because if they were reasonable and strategic, like Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, they would have paired up together. Obi will have been the candidate, Atiku will have been the running mate. The whole process will have been different. But they wanted to go their separate ways. It's dragging onto their ethnic conflict and wanting to see a positive outcome. Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu was and is the candidate of Nigeria and Nigerians in this election.
Yes, sir.
He's not an ethnic candidate. He lost in Osun, he lost in Lagos.
Yes.
And so, for that reason, this election must continue, must go on.
Whoever is calling for the cancellation of this process, or the results or otherwise, is calling for the abortion of democracy in Nigeria. And Nigerians are not ready to abort this process. To those who are whipping up the youths, the ill-informed section of the youths, those who are whipping them up should remember that the youths who never went through the crucibles of democratic struggle, who have not seen wars, who do not know the tragedy of war, of insurrection, of destabilization on a national scale, should be well aware that Nigerians are not ready to go through that ruinous path again. Those of them who have ears, let them hear. Nigerians want the stability and political progress of this country through democracy, not through the jackboots of militarism. Never again. Those who are calling for the abortion, you can all see, they are not true Democrats. Only true Democrats deserve the joy of victory. If you do not or cannot absorb the shock of defeat, you do not deserve the joy of victory.
Absolutely.
And our candidate has honorably accepted defeat in his own base of Lagos. Let others, PDP, the LP, and any other, let them also imbibe the same spirit of true Democrats and sportsmanship. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I just want to adopt everything that my colleagues have said and piggyback on some of them. Listen, I want to appeal to the to those that have common sense out there. I do understand that, elections are a very emotional sort of process where you get very, very involved. So it's understandable that some people out there who may not be this part of the divide may feel some level of emotion as to their candidate not maybe winning the election. But I want to say that we understand that we're living in a democracy and, election is a game of numbers. And we have gone through a process. I don't think Nigerians have ever gone through a freer and fairer process. The president went out of his way to put in policies that even were affecting us negatively, but to make sure that Nigerians have the ability to go and exercise their constitutional duty freely. And this is what has happened. And at the end of the day, only one person is going to win. And if that person who wins is the one who is able to satisfy the requirement of our Constitution, Section 134, then so be it. We know that today, if it wasn't Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu that was able to pass that threshold, we will accept it because we are Democrats. So I appeal to everyone out there to please think about Nigeria. This is a watershed moment. This is our future. Do not allow people, like my colleague said, that are trying to rile up emotions. This is about your future. Nigeria has spoken. We will allow this process to play out, and whoever INEC announces as winner, I pray that we all rally together, because we must live in this country as one, as a united country, and this is what we are committed to doing, is what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is committed to doing, and I thank you all for appealing to your conscience in this affair.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, my name is Lucky Samudi. I work for Channels Television. You appear so confident of winning this.
We have won.
We've won. Yeah. 1.5 million ahead. Right?
Yes, sir. While waiting for the official announcement, should there be a rerun? How prepared?
There won't be a rerun.
Before we
now,
announce.
let me explain. Please, let me explain to him. Wait, please, let me explain to him. He has raised an issue, and there could be others like him who will wish to be enlightened. Now, why there can't be a rerun, there is a constitutional stipulation, guiding, please, there are regulations guiding this process. Now, for you to become elected or declare the winner, you must have a majority vote overall, nationally.
Plurality.
Yes. And you must you must have the threshold of 25%, scoring 25% in at least 24 states, right? So, where there is a clear winner or a candidate that has crossed that threshold in minimum of 24 states and have the overall majority vote, there is no issue of rerun at all.
Yeah.
You yourself, that reporter, are you perfect? You are not. So therefore, any human conduct organization, even a nation, is not perfect. So Obasanjo was only saying the obvious. And we said here, and he himself admitted to it, the beneficiary of his own election that he conducted in 2007, the late Umaru Yar'Adua, admitted openly, publicly, that the election that Obasanjo conducted, which brought him into the presidency, was flawed. And he went ahead to do what true Democrats would do, to institute a procedure for electoral reform. That's what is done in decent societies. When you see glitches or errors here and there, you fix it against the next time.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's what happens everywhere in the world. And Obasanjo attested to it. So you and I know in good conscience that Obasanjo is only playing to the gallery to massage his own ego because we know the fundamental reason. Obasanjo has never played any noble role, political noble role in this country, in a democratic process.
If you observe anomalies in collectively 10 units, would that affect the result in 176,000 polling units? That's the question.
Exactly.
It's about the substantial, whether it affects it substantially.
Now, you carried live the press conference of PDP and LP just now.
Yes.
You carried live Dino Melaye shouting, huffing and puffing and employing gutter snipe on air on your station. Now, before then, your station has carried live more obnoxious and pugnacious statements, right? And this, so therefore, your point, you have made your point. We have listened to you. We have responded.
Thank you.
Ask your question.
What I was trying to say in essence is, we do know that the situation of the country is tense at the moment.
It's not tense.
Please ask your question. Let her ask her question now. No, let her ask the question. Please, just leave her. Please get to it quickly.
Coming from the PDP, what they are saying, they're not holding sway for Obasanjo or any other person who is saying...
We never said they were.
This is my question.
Okay.
I have the right, like you have said. They're saying irretrievably compromised. That's how they're tagging the election. So are you saying INEC should continue with the process as it is right now, despite the fact that just this morning, the rep in Rivers State refused to even announce the result because of threats to his life, showing that things are not perfect. So what I'm asking you in essence is, are you saying we should continue, even though we do know that, everywhere across the country...
Please, relax now. Thank you very much. Have you finished? Now, please. No. We don't want to huddle everything together so that there will be clarity. Gentlemen and ladies, this is the APC Presidential Campaign Council. We have our values. And I just said that we are committed Democrats. And in the spirit of democracy, whoever has any views, however contrary, contradictory, or loquacious, we must entertain. That is the spirit of democracy. We only reserve the right to respond. So, my dear sister, to your question, now, we are saying that you cannot abort a baby when the pregnancy is in full term. It has reached full term. Now, Festus, just said something to you. These are lawyers surrounding us. And they've pointed out that in a process like this, in an election covering over 176,000 polling units, you cannot have every unit in perfection. And I did say that there is no human conduct, least of all your organization, that is perfect. Right? I know a little bit of journalism practice. I just don't know a little bit of it. I'm trained in journalism, and I've practiced it all my life. And I can also say categorically that your small organization breaches the code of ethics of journalism on a daily basis. Does that mean that we should close it down?
Very well spoken.
That is the principle of what we are saying. That you have one or two glitches in a process covering 176,000 or more polling units does not amount to aborting the entire process and aspirations of over 200 million Nigerians. That's what we are saying. We did say categorically that our candidate, being a committed Democrat, not just in theory, but in practice, and has been exemplified by his track record in the democratic struggle, in instilling or making sure that this democracy we practice is alive and kicking. Much more than any other candidate in the horizon today. Because of all of this, he is going to accept defeat in good conscience, honorably. And he has done it in Lagos a few days ago. How many times are we going to repeat that? It's so simple. He has demonstrated it, and he did say, and I've repeated it, if you are not prepared to absorb the shock of defeat, you have no moral right to enjoy the fruits of victory.
Exactly.
That says it all.
Now, on that issue, you know, this process we are going through is not a process of sentiment and emotion. It's law. Yeah. This is an institution guided by law. So that is why I intervene at every point in time when you ask such questions that relate to the process under the Electoral Act. So whatever your sentiment or emotions is irrelevant here. Now, let me explain to you, maybe you don't understand what I said earlier. The national chairman seated there as a national returning officer has two roles: to receive the results from the resident electoral commissioners of the state. That is just a simple role given to him. And when he receives, he announces the results. You cannot attend to complaints about results that have not been handed to you and you have not announced. Now, all the complaints received will now be attended to before he now makes the final declaration. There are two processes involved here. People think that announcing results means that you have announced a winner finally. No. When you now go through the 36 results and Abuja, right, you will now say, now, what are the complaints we have received so far? That is the point at which the national returning officer looks at all the complaints and says, okay, this complaint, does it affect this declaration I'm about to make? If there's a complaint that is substantial enough at that point to affect the declaration, that is when he holds back to make the final declaration.